Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for checking out my show, Coin Stories, where I get to hear from the leading voices in Bitcoin, financial markets and investing, political structures, philosophy, and more. Please make sure you're subscribed to the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like the video so more people see it, and hit that notifications button so you don't miss out on any new content. This podcast does not provide financial advice. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So make sure to do your own research before making any investment decision and be aware of your risk tolerance. I'm able to produce this show thanks to my sponsors, and I'm very picky about who I choose to partner with. So I hope you take the time to listen to the ad reads throughout the show. All right, now to my first partner, where I buy my Bitcoin, Swan. I partnered with Swan because it is a Bitcoin-only company focused on helping people save for their future and self-custody their Bitcoin, not trade it. You can start a direct deposit to take advantage of Bitcoin as a savings technology and learn how to take it off the exchange. Swan's mission is to educate 10 million future Bitcoiners through free resources and media projects like Hard Money. Swan also offers retirement planning with an IRA, tax loss harvesting, home equity conversion, and a white glove private client service. I use Swan to dollar cost average every day. That's right. I deposit a little bit every day that's equivalent to what I might spend on a meal so that I add to my future nest egg and lower my yearly cost basis. To learn more and get $10 in free Bitcoin when you sign up, head to swanbitcoin.com/Natalie Brunell.
Bitcoin 2024 is coming to Nashville in Tennessee, a city that is known as a music and freedom city. Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville from July 25th to 27th.
Let's break it down to the basics. Joining me is Dante Cook, head of Swan Business for Swan Bitcoin. And if you guys don't know who Dante is, he has a way of breaking down Bitcoin and the importance and the value proposition for not just retail customers, but also for businesses and corporations. There's no one better than this guy. So Dante, first of all, for people that aren't familiar with you, tell them a little bit about your backstory. How'd you get into Bitcoin?
Wow. I'm just a humble guy from the Midwest. I live in Indianapolis, and a lot of activity in different business circles happens on the coast, whether it's in LA, in Bitcoin, it's Miami. But I live in Indianapolis, and my backstory to getting into Swan and to Bitcoin in general was through the gateway drug of Robinhood and Coinbase and all of these other exchanges. And then you finally start to realize, I think it was a podcast with Andreas Antonopoulos, where Bitcoin was the internet of money that really kind of changed my world and this idea. And he called it the streaming wars. Streaming sats kind of was one of his big ideas. And when you start to think about it, of the largest real estate company in the world, Airbnb, owns no property. The largest taxi company, Uber, owns no taxis. You know, the largest camera company in the world, Instagram, doesn't make cameras. You start to think about, if those are the directional arrows of progress, what does that mean for financial services, that the largest banking network in the world wouldn't have a bank branch? Would it be a place where you go and interact with people, but would be a distributed network that you could connect to and plug into from anywhere in the world? So I think that really changed my perspective. And then I went all in on Bitcoin in 2017 and started to just navigate my interests, my career, my reading, my time. That's what the rabbit hole does. It sucks you down.
Oh, and then it's the best experience.
You end up hanging out with crazy people in places like Jacksonville.
Okay, so let's talk about the importance of understanding money, because then we can start talking about Bitcoin a little bit. So Dante, what is money?
What is money? Money is the thing that we use to communicate as human beings. So the earliest forms of communication were about money. Who owned what, why they owned it. And so if you were a guy that lent a couple apples for an exchange of a sheep, eventually you'd want to keep a ledger of the value that was exchanged. Now, clearly the guy who got the sheep got more value than the person who got the apple. But money is just simply a means, a technology for us to communicate how much time, how much value, and the scoreboard that exists. I'm an athlete. I'm a former Division I football player. And so scoreboards matter. They allow you to keep a track of who has what proof of work, right, amounted to what number of points on the board. And so that's what we do all the time with our time and our money. But in the United States or in other places, that goes into a paycheck, which is converted into a currency. And unfortunately, a lot of people are having their time and their value devalued. And that's what money is.
Well, that leads me to my next question. What is wrong with our money?
everything eventually comes back to the truth. So our perceptions of how a world could work always align to the truth. I give this analogy to my daughter. We just went to Disney World, and we went to the the Dumbo exhibit. And so after we come out, she thinks that she can fly, right? And we have to have some really basic conversations about, no, baby, if you jump from here, when we hit the ground, we're going to have very different problems and conversations. And so eventually, everything devolves back to the truth. You could perceive in your mind that I can jump off and fly, but when you land, truth wins. And so the reason that our money is devalued, what's the problem with our money, is that there's no objective source of truth. It's always allowed to be manipulated. The line of what is true and what isn't changes depending upon how much power you have, how much positional authority you have, or what geographical jurisdiction you have in the world. And so when the world is becoming global, when all of the clothes that I have on are made in China, that I purchase with dollars, we're now entering this global multipolar world. And so when that truth is not the same for everyone and that line moves, that's when you have distortions of the reality and the truth. And so that's the problem with our money. There is no true single standard that we are all relying on to store our time and our value.
If your kids were to ask you, why is this toy more expensive this year than it was last year, Dad? I don't know if they would ask you that, but why are things around us getting more expensive when, with the idea of technology being deflationary, shouldn't things be getting cheaper? Shouldn't things be getting easier as we produce more and more?
That's exactly right. I mean, they ask me all the time. They got an allowance of $50 at Disney World, and Mickey Mouse ears were actually like $45 there.
Whoa.
So there wasn't even an opportunity to buy Mickey Mouse ears and candy, which we thought that they would be able to have multiple things there. And the reason is when you increase the price of goods, when you start to get to a certain standard of living, that standard doesn't change, right? When I think about how we've progressed from your college dorm to the house that you live in now, most people don't elect to go back to living the way that they did in their college dorm. And so when you set prices as a business, when you set salaries as a business, when you set contracts with vendors and rates and you lock in these things with vendors, those things tend to not come back down. And so the problem with inflation and the prints and the numbers that we talk about, inflation being 6%, is people think that if it goes back down to 2%, we've somehow captured that money back. And that's just not true.
Yeah, the rate it's going up is just changing.
The rate it's going up is changing, but it's always going up. Mm-hmm. And eventually, what goes up must come down. Again, aligning back to the realities of truth.
So what is Bitcoin?
Wow, Bitcoin is an open, programmable source of exchanging value, time, and money across time and space that we can all access. And for a lot of businesses, what I would say, it's a way to reliably increase return, reduce risk, and improve resiliency in the event of a banking collapse, which we're seeing all around us today. And a lot of things that people take for granted. I mean, Bitcoin is just an open protocol for money. When I talk to an IT person, I never argue with them about the validity of whether their business should use HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Service, or Voice over Internet Protocol, which is, that's the way that we communicate via telecommunications. But within an enterprise, you're typically accessing this open protocol through Gmail or through Outlook or through Skype or through Zoom. And it's no different with Bitcoin and money. And so Bitcoin is literally an open source technology that allows anyone anywhere to plug into to transmit information, mainly value and money.
Well, you talked about what money is, what the problem with money is. So how does Bitcoin fix the money?
Well, there's rules without rulers. So we're all playing on a global scoreboard. When we put points up on the scoreboard, there's no person that's manipulating the numbers saying this team has more points than that team. And so it automatically gets us on a global standard of truth in terms of time and value and money and energy. And Bitcoin really solves this by allowing computers to do the things that computers are good at, which is keep track of records, keep track of information, keep track of data and information across time and space. As humans, there becomes a limit that we can do those things well. And so what happens is when at 2 o'clock yesterday, when Jerome Powell increases the interest rates by 25 basis points, well, he doesn't have the ability as a human to understand the second, third, and fourth order effects of that, which computers are really good at. And so why not outsource the things that computers are really built to do, and so that we can really focus on the things that humans are really good at doing, which is creating and providing value to the world.
You talk to a lot of business owners around the country. What is their biggest question about Bitcoin? What is something that is more difficult for the average person to understand that you always find yourself having to clarify?
One of the things that I have the most conversations with business owners about relating to Bitcoin is that it is no different than the internet was in 2000. And so just trying to reframe their analogies and their perceptions to something that they already knew and lived through a lot of different changing circumstances with. I mean, in 1995, you had dial-up internet, and most of our projects, we had to go to the library to rent books, right? But just like the internet dematerialized books into words and numbers on a screen, Bitcoin is dematerializing cash and physical instruments for moving money and value across the world. And so that's the big thing that I like to do. I always say it's really the internet of money. And I think when you go there, really helps a lot of business owners understand kind of the paradigm shift. And whether you implement it, whether you leverage it, I think most business owners recognize that they need to understand it. And so that's where we're going, right? A lot of the conversations I say is, hey, you don't have to buy it on your treasury today. You don't have to implement Lightning to accept payments for your customers today, but you should understand it. And so getting off zero may not be in terms of stacking sats, it may be stacking knowledge. Get off zero. It's usually what I tell a lot of business owners.
So if someone asks you, how can Bitcoin help me today? Not these interesting topics about strategic reserves for countries, but how can it help me as an individual today?
Well, risk and insurance, risk is really there to prevent total ruin and total collapse. So when you buy an insurance policy, it's so that when you have no resources, no things around you available, you're able to go collect on that policy to get something back. And the full remuneration of that thing that you're collecting from will be available at some point in the future. And so when I tell a lot of business owners, I actually have a customer here who all of their banking services were done with First Republic, who was shut down. So they're actually now not able to pay vendors, not able to pay customers, not able to do certain things that, may impact their business for the long term in a negative way. And so Bitcoin is 24/7, 365 global liquidity. It allows you to prevent total ruin. So having a month's worth of reserves, 2 months worth of reserves as a business will allow you to solve for that rainy day situation when your bank may collapse and you may not have the ability to go to your bank on a Saturday, or we'll see, it's Friday afternoon. I bet you there's going to be several banks halted after the close of business on Friday, and then something new will happen completely on Monday. And so what do you do between Friday and Monday as a business owner when you're not able to access your funds and people need to make payroll?
All right, last question. How do you explain Bitcoin to your kids?
My kids give me a lot of grief about Bitcoin. They make a lot of jokes. I bring things back to them. I explain Bitcoin to them as a way for them to store their energy and their time so that when they're old like daddy, they can have something to hold on to.
I love it. Dante, you're the best. We need to uplift your voice more. You got to get out there more. You should be speaking on stage. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Natalie.
It's time for a quick break to hear these messages from my partners. Fold is the best Bitcoin rewards debit card and shopping app in the world. You can earn Bitcoin on everything you purchase, from Amazon to groceries to sprucing up your wardrobe with Fold's Bitcoin cashback debit card. And you can win free Satoshis every day, or even play for the chance to win a whole Bitcoin by spinning the daily wheel and the purchase rewards wheel. And now on Fold, you can buy Bitcoin directly and earn even more incentives and rewards by using the apps to stack sats. It's an amazing app to get someone totally new into Bitcoin. So if you want to join the fun, head to foldapp.com/Natalie and get 10,000 in free sats when you sign up. CrowdHealth, a Bitcoin alternative to health insurance. Health insurance costs can be sky high today, and you essentially send money every month to a massive corporation, the health insurance black hole, as I call it. And if you don't need any health care, you never see that money again, right? But if you do need to go to a doctor, you end up having to pay even more out of pocket, especially if you end up as one of the 20% of claims on average that aren't covered. With CrowdHealth, you pay a small monthly fee that goes into an account that you actually accrue over time and is yours to use or keep if you ever leave. You can even save that money in Bitcoin. CrowdHealth is all about community, and the community crowdfunds everyone's healthcare. So if something does happen or you have a doctor visit, CrowdHealth will negotiate down the medical bill much lower than what insurance would be, and then the community helps you cover it. And in return, you help others cover their needs. For more information, you can head to joincrowdhealth.com/Natalie. And if you use promo code Natalie, you get 6 months for $99. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Coin Stories. Again, hit like on the video and make sure that you have those notifications on so you don't miss out on any new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. If you have suggestions, feedback, guest requests, please email me at natalie@talkingbitcoin.com. Thanks so much.